Song of Cali by Dan Simmons. So this book was copyright 1985, and I have this Tor edition of this one. And this is Dan Simmons' first published novel. I've read some of his science fiction and some of his horror, but I found this one not too long ago in some of my book hunting, and I thought I'd kind of go back to the beginning and read the first novel that Simmons published. Now, there's no doubt that Dan Simmons is a talented writer. This is a solid offering for his first novel, but it's definitely not my favorite that I've read from him so far. He really, I think, honed his craft in as he continued writing, but you can see all of the things he's really good at, that show don't tell storytelling. He really kind of immerses the reader into the story. Everything I've read from him kind of sucks you in. And this is all along those lines, just maybe not as dialed in. So, you can take it for what it is. If you really love Dan Simmons, you'll probably eventually want to read everything he's written, and you might get to this one, even though it's probably one of his lesser known novels. But let's now kind of just get right into what this one is about. So one of the cool things I really liked about this is the setting is Calcutta, India, and he brings a lot of the culture and the descriptiveness of the city and the mythology of some Indian, myths and stuff like that. And it's also very horror driven stories. So I've never really read a horror story that took place in India, and that was kind of unique for me. And I thought he did a good job kind of incorporating that setting into the novel. But we have a main character. His name is Robert Lusac, and he is an American writer and poet. He works for a magazine, and his publisher wants to send him on an assignment over to India to track down this kind of mysterious author named M. Das. Now, our main character, Robert, his wife is from Indian heritage, and they also have a small baby, and he decides to take his whole family over there to Calcutta. His wife is from there. She speaks the language, she knows the culture, so there's that, but they also bring a baby, and so this definitely adds to the tension and the kind of suspense of the story as he's over there in this city, which always isn't like the nicest place to be, with his family. Now, what's mysterious about this author that he's going over there to track down, this M. Das, is there's people who claim that he died years ago. There's people who think he's just hiding. There's a lot of mystery about this person's actual whereabouts and if he's even alive. And it seems like recently some new poetry has come out from this author. So our character Robert is sent over there to kind of figure out what's actually going on. Is M. Das alive? Is he dead and someone's impersonating him? Or is there something else happening here? And when he gets over to India, he meets all kinds of different people. You never know who's really trying to help him or maybe trying to fool him into who knows what. And the more he gets wrapped up into this, you start to figure out what this Song of Cali is. And this is kind of some Indian myth brought into it. There is a cult that worships this deity called Kali, and it's pretty dark for what they're doing. Some of the rituals that they are performing to appease this deity. And so the further you get into this one, the more and more horrific it gets. And you really start to question a lot of even what's going on through our main character's head. Now, like I said, the writing is really good. The immersion in this culture is really good. But there was just some bits of this that seemed a little long to me for what the story was really trying to do. This was only a little over 300 pages, but still some of it felt a little drug out. There was one section in here that was like a first-hand account from someone in India who had experienced this ritual. And it kind of went on and on in my mind, and it definitely could have been summarized down a little bit more. But overall, it was still good. I give this a solid 3 stars, and I think if you really love Dan Simmons' writing, which I think almost everyone that I've ever talked to that's read Simmons has fallen in love with his writing. You know, at some point you might get to this, but there's probably other novels that are probably higher up on your TBR list than this one. But I am glad I read it. I was kind of wanting to read something horror to kind of start spooky season off. So I got this one in September, and I plan on reading some other horror novels later in October. So just look for some of those reviews coming out next month. And once again, thanks for watching.